Hello and welcome. It's time to make dinner. And one of my favorite things, I had some scallops in my freezer that I bought a while back, and I also had some bacon in there. And one of my favorite combinations is bacon wrapped scallops or scallop and bacon pizza. And one of my most popular recipes back in the day was seafood lasagna. So today we're gonna make scallop and bacon lasagna. I still have some of my fresh pasta sheets in the freezer. I pulled those out. I cooked the bacon, and here are the nice sea scallops, and we're gonna get her done. When you get sea scallops, there is something called a tough muscle, and you gotta pull that off because they are tough. That one doesn't have one. All right, and there it is. You just reach in and pull it off. So we're gonna do that. Our tough muscles are removed and thrown away. And now we're gonna make our sea scallops a little bit smaller. Halves or thirds. I think halves will be good. So we're gonna, the really big ones will be thirds. Keep going until they're all cut up. They are now into bite-sized pieces, and we're gonna dry them off. And we're gonna set them aside. Our scallops that are gonna go in our scallop layer of our lasagna is going to be made in a Mornay sauce, which is a very tasty, like a bechamel sauce, but it's a tasty version of a bechamel sauce. So we're gonna make that now. And because the scallops are going into a lasagna that's gotta cook in the oven for at least 30 minutes, they're going in raw, so they won't be too well cooked, too over well cooked. And we're gonna start with 3 tablespoons of butter over medium heat, and let's melt it up. Our butter is melted up. We're gonna wait for it to get a little bubbly. And in the meantime, we're gonna season it with some salt and pepper. Some onion powder. Garlic powder, and a sprinkle of nutmeg. We're going to incorporate those seasonings into our butter. And when it gets bubbly, we're going to make our roux. We're starting to bubble up, so now it's time for about 3 tablespoons of flour. Let's see how that does. Our very thick roux is made. Now it's time for a couple of cups of half and half. We're going to whisk it up and see how thick it gets. It's got to reach the boiling point to reach its perfect thickness. And we got to stir it constantly to incorporate the roux into the half and half. Our Mornay sauce, or the beginning of our Mornay sauce, is starting to thicken up. We haven't reached the boiling point yet, so we may have to thin it out a little bit because when this has reached a sort of thickness, we're going to add some Gruyere cheese and some Parmesan cheese, and that's going to thicken it up too. So we're going to keep going and get our sauce done. Our bechamel sauce is nicely thickened up, and now it's time to add our cheese. More Gruyere than Parmesan. This is finely grated Gruyere. I don't think I've ever bought grated Gruyere before. Stir that in. Keep stirring it till it's melted up. Now in comes our Parmesan. Don't need too much of that. That's going to go in between the layers as well. Our Mornay sauce is nice and smooth and thickened. And I'm going to put most of it in a bowl. I'm going to save a layer because I'm going to put the bacon and scallops in this sauce. Except for I need a topping sauce, which will just be plain. And I'm going to thin it out a little bit. So we're going to pour it in a bowl, and here we go. Here's our thinned up topping sauce. We're going to set that aside, and when we build our lasagna, we're going to top it off. The next thing we're going to do is dice up our bacon strips into bite-sized pieces, sort of as equalish as the scallops. And we're going to add those to our Mornay sauce. Our scallops too. So let's keep going until they're all done. Our bacon is cut up and in our sauce. And when I pick up this bowl, it's still pretty hot on the bottom, so, well, I'm going to add in the scallops. They're going in. I was going to use my hands to toss them around, but I think I can. Okay, this is going to be our scallop and bacon layer. There's also going to be layers of ricotta. And I think I am going to go back to a little bit of red sauce on the bottom of the lasagna. So here's a close-up of our scallop and bacon layers. I think this will make 2 layers. And we're going to set that aside and do the ricotta. Here's our whole milk ricotta. The ricotta is in. We're going to season our ricotta cheese with some salt and pepper, some dried oregano, and some dried basil. And now we're going to beat a large egg and add that in too. In goes our beaten egg. Mix this up. We will get her done. I'm preheating the oven to 350 degrees, and now it's time to assemble our scallop and bacon lasagna. We're going to spray a baking dish with some non-stick cooking spray. And spread the bottom with a very thin layer of red sauce. In we go. That should do it. That ought to work. It's time to put in our first lasagna sheet. We may have to adjust it to make it fit. I'm going to cut a little strip off the second one and fill this in. Now we're in. And next comes some of our seasoned ricotta. Spread that around nice and evenly. Okay, our first layer of ricotta is down. And here comes a layer of the scallop and bacon filling. And looking good. We're going to just do a wee sprinkle of Parmesan. Add a little extra cheesiness to our lasagna. And now it's time for our next layer. Now it's time for some more ricotta. Here comes the rest of our scallop and bacon Mornay sauce mixture. Okay, looking good. Another little sprinkle of Parmesan. Our 2 layers are assembled. Our top layer is on. And I pulled too many of these sheets out of the freezer. I'm going to save this one and make some nice big wide noodles out of it. I love them so much. We're going to top this off with our straight Mornay sauce. Our straight Mornay sauce is on. This is a heavy lasagna. Now we're going to top our lasagna off with some shredded mozzarella. And then we're going to bake it in the oven. It's going to take probably 40-45 minutes or so. Okay, we got a nice even layer of mozzarella cheese on top. Next thing I'm going to do is put this on a sheet pan in case it boils over. We're all ready to go in the oven, and we'll see how yummy it is when it comes out. Our scallop and bacon lasagna is out of the oven. Browned up nicely, sizzling up nicely. Smells so good. And we got to let it rest for a little while before we cut it into pieces and take a bite. So we're going to do that. Thank you for joining me while I used my scallops and bacon and made a yummy scallop and bacon lasagna. I finally got a chance to cut a piece. Here's what we look like on the inside. And now we're gonna take a bite. I've got a bite-sized piece on a fork, and again, there's a close-up of the inside. You can see the bacon, you can see the scallop, and now we're going in. I it came out so good. It was so yummy. It's creamy and smoky and scallopy and cheesy, and it's not exactly like the seafood lasagna that I used to make, but it's a good version, and we will see you again soon. Have a good weekend.